Hi everyone, my name's Stacey and welcome back to Fibro After Dark. I'm really glad that you're here with me today, whether you're listening in the sunshine or in the shade. Thank you for tuning in and spending this time with me. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to say a massive thank you for all the support recently, the messages and the comments, people sharing their experiences with me. Honestly, it does mean so much. And one of the things that I love about this little community that we're building is just how honest everyone is being with each other. And I think today's topic is another one that so many of us struggle with silently. And hopefully by talking it through, it will help somebody to not feel so guilty. So before we get into the main topic today, I did want to quickly talk about the heat wave that we're currently having here in Britain, because let's be honest, as Brits are absolutely not built for hot weather. And I know a lot of people that suffer with chronic illness and fibromyalgia are definitely really struggling a lot more right now. The heat can definitely make fatigue worse. It can make the pain worse. It can make the brain fog worse. It can cause dizziness, headaches, sleep problems. And honestly, it just feels like the whole body just stops coping properly. And when you're already living with a chronic illness, extreme heat can zap the little energy that you already have. So before we move on, I also wanted to share some really helpful hot weather tips from someone who has genuinely been such a lovely support to me since starting this podcast. Her account is called Fibro_girly on Instagram, and she's one of the very first people to support me and encourage me when I initially launched Fibro After Dark. Jade, who's behind the account, is genuinely just so beautiful inside and out. Her kindness and support from day one just means so much to me. And I actually got these hot weather tips from her Instagram account, and I definitely recommend giving her a follow because her content is so relatable and supportive for people who are struggling with chronic illness. So hot weather tips from Jade behind Fibro Girly. Here we go. Hopefully that picks up on the camera. So Jade recommends making sure you've got easy snacks available and to stay hydrated. And she also talks about electrolytes, which are something that I've never considered before. But after talking to Jade, I'm definitely going to give them a go. So she sent me a link to try some. So I'll keep you updated on that. But yeah, does anybody else use electrolytes? It's like a revelation to me. Never even thought of them before. Another good tip that Jade talks about on her Fibro Girly post is to have frozen fruit to hand, which I really like that idea. So I put some in the freezer earlier. Also, this ties in very well with our episode today to make sure that you rest when you can. So don't feel guilty about resting. Try and make sure that you're avoiding the peak hours and staying in the shade where you can. Comfy clothes, I'm definitely guilty of never wearing comfy clothes. So I would really appreciate any advice on websites that you go to or shops that you like, because I'm having like an identity crisis right now, I think, on like what to wear that's even remotely comfortable. So yeah, any tips on that would be great. Cool surroundings, so fans, closey curtains, cold flannels, dim lighting, and just making sure that you try and stay cool. This is also a really good one, is to not put any extra pressure on yourself. So to quote the post, the house is messy and replies are slow and dinner might be picky bits, but right now the goal is staying regulated, not being productive. I really love that. I think that just says it all. Be kind to yourself. So this is something I think we're all guilty of. I always think you should talk to yourself the way that you talk to your friends. You always show friends empathy, kindness, so much compassion, yet we always seem to be really overcritical of ourselves. And especially since, for me personally, since starting this podcast, and I'm having to look back at footage of myself and listen to myself during the editing, it's just like, it's so hard not to be so critical of yourself and be, oh, this, that, so I do think that you definitely need to be kind to yourself, because your body's already working overtime at the moment in this heat. So it doesn't need you attacking it either. Make life easier. So use the fan constantly, take breaks, compression socks. I love compression aids. I also use compression gloves. I think compression aids are a game changer for me personally. I just love them. Painkillers, naps, changing plans, using mobility aids, and whatever makes a difference to you. And also, if there's anything that you can recommend that helps you in the heat as well, please reach out to either Jade at the @Fibro_girly account on Instagram, or you can message me as well. But I'd love to know any tips, because I don't think this heat is going anywhere for a while, and it is definitely killing me. So the heat wave actually links really well into today's episode, because I know so many people end up feeling guilty for resting, and especially during the weather like this, where rest is even more important. And it is that pressure that somehow you should still be functioning normally, even when your body is clearly struggling. You seem to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So today I really, really wanted to talk about the guilt of resting. And I think this is something that so many people with chronic illness suffer with, and they don't always talk about openly. It's that feeling guilty for slowing down. You know, you can be exhausted, in pain, completely drained, physically and emotionally, and yet still feel guilty for sitting down or taking that, mid-afternoon nap, feeling lazy, and just feeling like you should be doing more. I think a lot of us grow up believing that our value comes from being productive, being busy, working hard, always doing something. And so when chronic illness comes along and it makes us rewrite our whole outlook on that and forces you to slow down, it can feel really emotionally uncomfortable, because it's so against what you are led to believe, and also what your life might have looked like before. And I know for me personally, resting does not come naturally at all. I was always the sort of person that if I sit down, I'll stop. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm I always used to be busy. I was always doing something. I was always pushing through. I was always meeting with friends, doing this, doing that. And to then have to slow that down and rest a lot more, it did almost feel like a failure at first. Not self-care. It didn't feel like self-care. It just felt like failure. And I think sometimes the hardest part is that guilt, because you internalize it and you start judging yourself before anyone else even can. You feel bad for cancelling plans. You feel bad for having to take a nap, for lying down, or even asking for help. Asking for help is really alien for a lot of people to do. And even though your body is literally screaming at you for rest, it is so tempting to just keep going, keep pushing through. And I think that kind of ties in again with invisible illness, because it makes it so much harder, because people around you can't physically see what's going on. So, you look okay. Yeah, I look okay, but my battery is actually at like sub-zero right now. And you're constantly having to justify yourself, and you're almost like you're seeking permission to have that rest and to slow down. And that's what we want to sort of try and flip around. So tips for managing the guilt of resting. I wanted to share a few things that I feel have genuinely helped me manage some of the guilt around actually slowing down and taking that mid-afternoon nap, because I know how emotionally difficult it can be. So number one, rest before you completely crash. This one took a lot of errors before I actually started listening to myself, because if you learn and accept that resting early is actually a preventative, then it's coming back to that old saying that preventative is always better than cure. So rather than going to the point where your body is completely stopped and then you're forced to rest, and then by that point you're already in a flare-up and everything becomes worse. Your recovery becomes a lot longer because you've pushed. So prevention is definitely better than cure. Remember, it's not laziness, it's simple symptom management. Stop comparing yourself to healthy people. So I think comparison makes guilt so much worse. We compare ourselves to people whose bodies function completely different to ours. Even people with different chronic illnesses, we are all unique. And what I might be able to do before I crash out and what you might be able to do before you crash out, it could be a lot different. So it's always making sure that you're not comparing yourself to anybody else, and especially not to somebody who is perfectly healthy and doesn't have these issues. You have to remember that your body is working so much harder than everyone else's just to keep functioning at that base level. So take the rest and be aware that your rest needs are going to look different to someone else's. So number 3, change the way you speak to yourself. We've kind of already touched upon this already, but we're so often kind to other people that we actually forget to be kind to ourselves. And if someone that you loved had a chronic illness and needed to rest, you probably wouldn't ever call them lazy. I hope you wouldn't. You'd understand and you'd support that, and you would also encourage them to rest before they get to the point of burnout. So why do we be so much harder to ourselves than what we would be to other people? It's kind of being aware that you are negative talking to yourself and just kind of trying to flip it around. Number 4, redefine your productivity. So one thing that I have really learned to do is that productivity doesn't always mean physically doing something all the time. Sometimes just surviving a difficult day is enough. Protecting your energy is productive in itself. And then sometimes rest is productive in itself. Don't compare yourself to having this unviable list of things that you want to do in the day when really just actually functioning is hard enough. So redefine your normal, redefine your boundaries with yourself of what your body can actually do before you are at full crash out. And number 5, stop feeling like you have to earn rest. I think so many of us feel like we have to get to complete burnout before we will allow ourselves to rest. And then it becomes more of a forceful rest. But healthy people rest all the time without guilt. So why shouldn't we? Why should you have to reach breaking point before you let yourself slow down? Another one, number 6, is make rest feel comfortable. So one thing that can really help emotionally is creating a comfort in rest instead of seeing it as a punishment. It shouldn't be something that, I've got to go rest now. Like it should be something that is a comforting thing. So whether that's making sure that you've got nice music, nice podcasts, cozy blankets, a good book, journaling, nice lighting, try and make it something that you are intentionally doing instead of something that you are being forced to do. Because as human beings, it's in our nature. We don't want to do what people tell us to do. So if somebody's saying you need to go and rest, it's like we become children again. And it's like, no, I don't need to rest. So try and make it something that you're intentionally doing, whether it's right, I've done this, I'm going to go up, I'm going to read my book, I'm going to put on my nice music, I'm going to go listen to a podcast, and whatever works for you, just to make it intentional rather than a punishment. It's so easy for me to sit here and say all these things, and I am definitely not perfect at all. All these things that I'm saying to you are things that I need to constantly work on myself as well. The guilt doesn't disappear overnight, but I do think that we deserve to stop punishing ourselves for having bodies that just need a little different care to others. You are not lazy for needing to rest. You are not weak for needing to slow down, and your worth is not measured by your productivity. And I think it's really important not only to be kind to yourself, but also to make sure that you've got a good network around you as well, because your partner, your family, your friends, they need to understand that your body is different and that your needs are different. And it ties into like a previous episode of mine as well on like managing friendships and making sure that those around you are your people. Don't put time into people that you feel you're constantly having to justify things to, because it's not good for you. It's not going to help you, and it's certainly not going to make you feel any better about having to take intentional rest. So, as always, I would really, really love to hear from you on this episode. Do you struggle with resting without guilt? And also, don't forget that I'll be doing a short midweek question and answer session as well. So, I'm just currently building a little collection of questions to feature on the show. I'm going to be bringing in other voices, other people that suffer with chronic illness, and also people that have a different perspective on how to live with it as well. But also as well, if you just want to talk and you just want to have a safe space, please do always reach out. I read a really, really sad comment on one of the Facebook groups this week about a woman who just felt that her husband was being really quite cruel to her and was still expecting her to function the way she did before, with working full time, doing the dinner, running the house, doing everything with the children. And I think loneliness is still a very, very big issue with chronic illness, and also people's perceptions. And what I'm hoping is that to have that safe space that you can talk and just feel that little less alone, like other people do get it. So please do always write into me, email me, message me on social media. I would love to hear from you. If it's anything you want to be featured on the podcast or just anything you want to talk about, I'm always here. Thank you for spending the time with me today. If this episode resonated with you in any way, I hope that it reminded you that you are absolutely not alone in these feelings at all. And if you haven't already, you can listen to all the previous episodes at Fibro After Dark on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms as well. All the links are on my social media pages. So please go give them a listen, give them a like, follow, subscribe, all that sort of things. I'm still learning everything, but remember to take things gently, stay cool in the weather, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you for listening.